Let's talk about books. I have so many books. I'm literally looking at all of them right now. I've got my fiction books on one shelf. I've got my occult books on another shelf. I also have a bunch of books on Audible and on Kindle. I love books. I love learning and I love entertaining myself with books. So let's talk about my favorite occult books that have impacted my craft the most. Hi, my name is Rosa. I'm the Divine Feminine Witch, and I help witches feel empowered through working with the goddess. And today we're going to talk about the books that have most impacted my personal craft. I'm going to give you just a description of each of the books and why I like them so much. I'm probably also going to mention a couple others that I didn't on TikTok or Instagram when I did my video then. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications so you never miss when I upload any video. Psychic Witch by Matt Auren. I love this book. I love this author. I think he is really great at the way that he writes. It's very understandable, very easy to get into it. I honestly am surprised how quickly I read through this, and I took a lot of notes, and it's definitely one that I keep going back to because this really does help you strengthen your psychic abilities. We all have psychic abilities. He talks about it here, how we all have abilities that we can tap into. Some people are already more in tune with them. Others just need some exercises, which he shares in this book. I also really appreciate that he mentions some really basic techniques that I feel other practitioners that write think everybody already should know this stuff, so they don't mention it in their book. Specifically grounding and centering and how energy flows through you. There's some good diagrams when he does certain exercises, and I just really think it's a really smooth read, and I think every witch should check this book out. Goddess Energy by Gabriella Herstick. I absolutely love Gabriella. I don't know if you guys follow her on social media, but this woman's a genius, and I really love the energy that she brings when she talks about goddess energy and what all that means, and she really explains it well in this book. This book goes over so many goddesses and their specific archetypal energy and how that energy could be helpful for you. And so if you really want to embody goddess energy, but you don't know which goddess to work with, I would say this is a good one to really get into it and understand where these goddesses came from and what their energy is all about. And then on top of that, this book goes on to talk about how you can tap into your own inner goddess. I really like the way she explains it on here, and I like that there's a bunch of journal prompts and tarot prompts throughout the entire book. So yeah, this is another great one. Of Blood and Bones by Kate Fowler. This one, I honestly feel everyone should check out. Even if you're not particularly trying to get into baneful magic, this doesn't just talk about baneful magic. It talks about the ethics and consideration when it comes to certain things that are on the more baneful side. I think a lot of us should understand how that type of magic works, whether you choose to do it or not. It could help you understand how to do reversals on that particular type of magic if you ever need to. I also love that she goes into explaining shadow work and how that will help you consider whether baneful magic is the way to go in particular situations. I think she really wrote this with full consideration of how the reader is going to be affected by the type of works that are mentioned in here. There's a lot of really great stuff to learn. As you can see, I have put a bunch of tabs for me to come back to. Plant Witchery by Juliet Diaz. I have checked out Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia of Herbs, I think it's called. Oh my god, why am I spacing on the name right now? I've checked it out. I've borrowed it from a friend before, and it's good. I like it. I do. There are some things that I don't necessarily agree with or that don't really make sense to me. So that's why I don't recommend that book. I'd rather recommend this one. First of all, I really like Julia Diaz. I think the way she writes is beautiful. The way she talks about the plants, it really helps you understand how you can connect to Mother Nature using these plants. And there's, I believe, 200 in here that are pretty common in the Northwestern Hemisphere. So if I had to recommend a book on herbs, it would be Plant Witchery. Besom Stangen Sword. Please ignore the little tear at the corner there. I promise I take care of my books. I had a little accident. I was carrying too many things at once, is what happened. But this book is absolutely great. This is by two authors, Christopher Orapello and Tara Love McGuire. I like the way that they write this. I think it reads very easily, and I think it's a good intro book for if you're literally just starting out. This is a good one. It goes over so many things, and I wouldn't say I necessarily follow everything that they do in this book, but it is very helpful to understand a lot of things of the basics and getting started. And I really enjoy that it doesn't come from a Wiccan background. There are so many books out there that are Wiccan based that are really popular, and that's because Wicca is like the most popular form of paganism and witchcraft. I guess that's the best way to describe it. I don't know. The thing is, I do not subscribe to Wicca. I never have. I've never been interested in it, especially because when I first looked it up, I learned about the history of it and it just didn't sit right with me. So I just don't subscribe to Wicca. And that's also why I really enjoy this book versus a lot of other beginner witch books. I like that they immediately go into animism. I think understanding animism can help you a lot in your witchcraft practice. They go over protections and sigils and runes and tarot and ancestral work. They tell you how to make incense. There's a lot of really great exercises. That's so much information into this book, and it's very easily digestible. So this is a good one. The Complete Book of Correspondences. This one was recommended to me by one of my mutuals on TikTok, and I am so glad that I did get it because it is a little bit more on the pricier side compared to most of my books, actually, but it's worth it. There's so much in here. As you can see, I've put up a bunch of tabs for everything for me to make it easier to go back to things. It gives you correspondences based off of specific intentions, and then it gives you correspondences based off of different categories. You have plants, animals, ocean items, has a whole section, runes, tarot, colors. There's just so much in here, and it's very useful, especially when you're finally ready to start creating your own spells, but you maybe not necessarily feel so comfortable just letting your intuition guide you. I would say this is a really good reference point to create your own spells. The Witch's Book of Self-Care by Erin Murphy Hiscock. I haven't mentioned this book in my previous video. This book has been absolutely great. I noticed I don't really see too many people talking about this book, but first of all, this is an absolute cutesy book. It's got like pink and blue font everywhere, and she tells you how to do simple things that are regular self-care routine things and other extra fancy little things to up your self-care routine. And I really think self-care is super important. It's extremely important, especially for goddess energy and embracing your divine feminine. Not only that, but this book kind of encouraged me to really feel like I can trust my intuition and curate my own spells and my own rituals solely based on letting my intuition guide me. There's some really fun crafts in here, like creating your own prayer beads out of rose petals, and I absolutely love that. She also goes into a body scrub recipe, and throughout the book there's a bunch of tips on how to honor and prioritize self-care, which is super important. The Book of Lilith. This was mentioned to me by one of my mutuals on TikTok before as well. And this book is amazing. It's very thin, but it's got so much information in here. And it's also, I'm going to be honest, this is really hard to digest. The way that this author writes, it's really hard, okay? That's all I'm going to say. But she's basically psychoanalyzing all of the written texts of Lilith. It's really a fascinating read if you are a Lilith devotee and looking for a way to really continue to honor that connection with her. Venus and Aphrodite by Bethany Hughes. This is a beautiful book. I really enjoy this. Bethany Hughes is a archaeologist and historian, and she writes about how Venus is connected to Aphrodite, who is connected to Astarte, Ishtar, Inanna, and how these are all connected to the planet Venus. And I really like the way that she writes about all of this. She's coming from an archaeological and historical viewpoint. It's very non-biased, and so it gives you the opportunity to try and understand the stories behind the Venusian goddess. So if you're a Venus or Aphrodite devotee, I highly recommend this one. This is a great book for you. Revolutionary Witchcraft by Sarah Lyons. I'm not sure how you pronounce her last name, sorry. This book is definitely for my fellow witches that are trying to defy the patriarchy. So this book was actually written, I believe, in 2020 or released in 2020. And so a lot of things happened during that time period, and they are still relevant right now. And these are the things that Sarah discusses in Revolutionary Witchcraft, and I absolutely love it because there are some really heavy points in there, but the way she talks about it and the way she gives you advice on how to navigate life, how to be a revolutionary witch, it really is inspiring. And I think everyone should read this book. This book will help you with all the difficult things going on in the world right now. It will help you figure out what you can do and not feel so helpless, because I know I felt like that at some point, and this book really helped. The Glam Witch by Michael Herkes. This book is amazing. This book is the first one I picked up on Lilith, and I'm so grateful that I did. There were so many books that I was researching on Lilith and considering buying, but when I read the reviews and when I started reading the description, the about of the book, I realized the way they describe Lilith in these books, or the way that these authors particularly work with Lilith, seems very different from how I personally work with Lilith. And I'll just leave it at that. This one, however, this one goes more into the similar energy that I have with Lilith, and that's why I really enjoy this book. Michael is a glam witch, and it really translates in the pages of this book. He gives you an idea of how you can work with Lilith and be a glam witch and basically empower yourself. And I really enjoy that about this book. It also goes really in depth in a section about Lilith and astrology, and I like the way that he helps you figure out what that means for you when you're looking at your own birth chart. I also really enjoy the way he talks about Lilith's historical associations, and with every story he then goes on to tell you how he interprets the stories, and it gives you an idea of who Lilith really is to her devotees. American Brujeria by J. Allen Cross. This one I mentioned before, and someone commented something about not suggesting this book to people because it's a closed practice, and I was a little confused by that, because if you look up the definition of brujeria, okay, if you look up the definition of brujeria, it is basically an umbrella term for witchcraft and sorcery practices. So it is technically not a closed-off practice. There are certain practices within brujeria that are closed off, and this author, this book, does not go into those practices. He does mention, which I really enjoy, how brujeria has evolved in America compared to what it is known for in Mexico. And he talks about how to respect other people's cultures when you are coming from a completely different background, and how to not culturally appropriate. And I really enjoy that about this book. This isn't about traditional brujeria from Mexico. This is more about the subculture that has emerged here in America, especially Southern California and the region around us. The type of brujeria that we know here is more similar to what is known as sorcery, and it combines Hispanic folk native traditions, including Catholicism. This book personally helped me kind of navigate my religious trauma because I did come from a Catholic background. I grew up Catholic, and so looking at Catholicism from a witchy perspective and how it is possible to combine the two just seemed like a really beautiful idea, and made me understand a lot of things that I may have not understood before when I wasn't necessarily open to learning about it. And since we're talking about the books that have most impacted my craft, I definitely want to mention my own book, Divine Feminine Witchery. I pretty much created this book off of my own practices and my beliefs. So this book is kind of like diving into my world, basically. In this book, I explain why divine feminine energy is so important and why it's necessary for us to tap into it, and all the potential that it has to help you in not just your witchcraft, but your everyday life. I share spells and rituals for things like glamour magic, confidence, self-love, sex magic, and cycle syncing. And cycle syncing even when you don't have a cycle, how you can energetically cycle sync. I share about goddess energy and how to work with goddesses, and also how to find your own goddess energy, as well as looking into your birth chart to see where and how the divine feminine shows up there for you personally. So yeah, I think this is a great book for everyone tapping into their divine feminine energy. I will have this one linked in the description below, so feel free to check that out. Okay, I really enjoyed doing this video. I love talking about books and I love reading books. So if there are some books that you really love that you feel other people should know about, go ahead and let us know in the comments. And that way, not only I can check these books out, but other people can also check them out. I almost forgot to mention, super important, yes, I have all the books linked in the description below. However, I do think you should only shop from bigger companies when you don't have local stores to purchase from. I really, really want to encourage you to shop local, support your local small businesses, including bookstores and metaphysical shops where you could probably find some of these books. Especially in today's climate, I think it's really important to support local businesses instead of big companies that don't necessarily align with our values. If you shop with the links below, it is an affiliate link, so it does support me, and I really appreciate that. And that's at no extra cost to you, just so you know. However, I really do want to encourage you to look for local shops, especially because at local shops, you could probably find like-minded people, more witchy people in your community. And that's another fun reason to go to local shops. Hopefully you found this video helpful. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.